Welcome to Empower Hour. Let's get growing. Good morning. I am coming to you from absolutely gorgeous, beautiful Colorado. It's 6 a.m. here, which normally is not a big deal for me. But yesterday our flight didn't land till about 3:30, and then got home finally at 6 a.m. Slept for like 2.5 hours, and so I'm a little tired today. And our guest is coming. I woke him up. I'm calling him Princess Joe today. So we will have our guest in a couple of minutes. But I wanted to talk about the ongoing theme that I've unearthed in my life recently. I guess at like the age of 52, I actually unlocked a pattern of being a people pleaser. Like, who would have thought? I've pretty much known for being opinionated, bossy, strong, pretty much everything but being a people pleaser. But my leadership style over the last 20 years was driven by a need to prove myself. I would overextend, take over, just doing as much as possible for the people in my life. And when I started my coaching business, this really backfired. I was devaluing myself, creating a sense of entitlement, and things would just crash and burn. And so now, working on these, setting boundaries, trying to restore some sort of balance. I don't really love the word balance. But this pattern really impacted my business, my marriage, my friendship. So it's super important to me. And it's what I've been working on really hard for the last year. I even hired a coach specifically to work on these issues. It's so important in business. We think people pleasing, what has that got to do with running a business? Well, see if it relates. I would allow clients to bypass agreements within contracts, miss appointments, and all of this lowered my standards. And here I am, the coach whose mission is to work with as many business owners and entrepreneurs to help them tap back into their joy and freedom, right? Through reclaiming your time and creating systems and processes so you can return that investment back into yourself, into whatever makes you happy, what nourishes your soul. But oftentimes we realize what is robbing our time is putting other people's needs first. And so obviously my rituals of meditating, journaling, visualization, affirming, all those things really helped me to be able to understand and recognize those patterns. And, but the biggest challenge is really acknowledging that behavior and then learning to set the boundaries with clients, with friends, with family. I'm away with my whole entire family right now. So it'll be an amazing test. But I really didn't understand how this was leaking over into my business world, right? So creating and sticking to those boundaries with your clients. Clients are hiring us to lead, right? We need to be able to lead. And so when entering a relationship, even with a client, I'm saying, what do I want to get out of this? Ensuring that my needs are met without compromise before agreeing to anything, because I can't help others if I feel overburdened. And so this shift has made a tremendous leap towards being in a space of loving what I do. I meet a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs who are not in love with what they do anymore. They're kind of miserable because they feel overextended. They feel burnt out. Finding joy when you are stretched thin is incredibly difficult. So by setting boundaries and prioritizing my needs, I'm a better coach. So I'm looking for you to do this digging deep. Are there areas in your professional life where you overcommit to please others? How often do you say yes to requests that you genuinely would love to decline? What underlying fears drive your need to please others? And how does your need for acceptance impact your decision making? Do you have employees that are working for you that you're so afraid that they'll leave that you just do anything? People need us to lead. Are you valuing your time and energy as much as you value others? What boundaries can you set to meet your needs first? How would your life change if you prioritize your well-being over other expectations? And how can you honor your true self in your daily actions and daily decisions? I promise you, asking yourself these questions is going to have a very, very powerful impact. I put together this time efficiency breakthrough audit, and going through that process really helps you identify where you're spending your time. Is it aligned with your personal and professional priorities, with those goals that you set? It's such a hidden disaster. Oh, look, Princess Joe's here. I'm calling you Princess from now on, Joe. That's your new nickname. But it's such a disaster because it's so deep, right? These are habits, these are patterns that we have been following our entire life. I mean, 50 something years old. I bet you when Joe comes on, if I ask Joe, did you ever think I was a people pleaser? He would be like, no. But it was a really, really, really deep pattern of mine. And going through this time efficiency audit really helped impact. Actually, let me put that up for a second before I introduce Joe. Here is this. I am doing this for $55. You guys, it's usually $1,500. It is life changing. I promise you, you will get back so much productivity, so much of your time that you'll be able to reinvest in yourself and anything that's important to you in your business. But let me introduce our guest. Joe, I'm sleepy today too. So this guy, I met this guy, I don't know, it's got to be 16, 17 years ago or 15 years ago, somewhere in that point. And we were both a hot mess. He probably doesn't know how much of a hot mess I was. Maybe he does. But just, I loved him from the first moment I met him. He's a real family guy, loves animals, just really sweet and smart and funny and charming and all those good things. But yeah, he was really, really struggling. And watching him go, and then I guess from when I was at Keller Williams, he went through an even darker period after that, which I was not around for, but he's told me a little bit about, and he's really gotten himself together. But beyond that, he's built this moving empire and a beautiful young family, and he's just awesome. Here he is. Good morning, Princess. Uh-oh. We can't hear you. Shit. Joe was late, so we did not do an audio check. Now we're going to have Mr. Social Media Technology not be able to hear us. Put this up. So look at this behind me, you guys. This is, can we hear you? Where? So these are part of the Rocky Mountains behind me. We have Buffalo Mountain, Red Mountain, and Willow Mountain. Absolutely breathtaking, completely gorgeous. And this is just a little lake in the community where I'm staying. I'm in Summit County, Colorado. My brother lives here. Yeah, isn't it, Janya? Just absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. I'm so grateful. And I'm here with my daughters, my mother. There he is.
Jen, can you hear me?
All right, we can hear you.
Amazing. Okay. All right. Yeah, I didn't do my audio check. It's funny you
Yeah.
were saying like, I'm like an animal lover, and the cat is jumping right onto my lap. So that was pretty interesting. Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a quick question.
How are?
I do have a quick question for you because I'm really, really intrigued. Is that I've been trying to see, usually when people have a background, you can see like some inconsistencies in the screen. Is that real background or is that?
This is real, Joe. I'm at my brother. Well, I'm staying on. So I'll tell you guys a really awesome secret. So I bought my Dominican condo on the beach 7-8 years ago, and somebody told me something about homeexchange.com. Write it down, homeexchange.com. And I get to travel very inexpensively. So I'm staying in this beautiful condo right here. I mean, come on. And it doesn't cost me a dime. They're not in my place in the Dominican Republic. You exchange with points, or sometimes it's reciprocal. But it's really powerful because, when you're traveling with a big family, you need a house. Like, unless you really rolling deep and you can afford a 30,000 week, right? Traveling with 10 people. Or that's just how you choose. But I love to cook, and so home exchange. But
Where are those mountains?
So we're in Summit County.
Okay.
Which you should know. It's a basin. Yeah, we're in Colorado.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. Gorgeous. I was like, no, can't be real. That's too picturesque. You can see the mountains in the water behind her.
I was in the bedroom and I was like, because I don't have anything today. I don't have my microphone. I'm just rolling. So I was like, I'm going outside. It's a little chilly, but it's beautiful. So I got my Christmas mug.
Very nice. I love that people pleasing thing that you were talking about. When you first mentioned like people pleasing in business, I was like, I knew that I did that because I for a second got resistant to it. I was like, oh no, that's not good. And then I'm like, wait a second. No, like I've applied that in my life, and I've seen a lot of changes, and it's not a negative thing. It's not a bad thing. It's
no,
not providing customer service. We provide the highest level of customer service. But for example, not being willing to do something that will make things not go right.
Yes, exactly.
Because you're not afraid, or maybe fear is still there, but because you've prioritized, like you talk about, your time and sanity and your client's time and sanity by doing things the way they're supposed to be done instead of the way somebody wants them to be done, and in turn it provides a higher level of service because things go the way they're supposed to, right?
Exactly. I'm a little foggy this morning, but you just delivered the message that I wanted to deliver. That's it. Like they need us to lead, right? We can't lead if we're stressed out and stretched too thin. We can't even think clearly. So when a client's like, oh, I really want to do this, and it's a disaster, you have to be in such a good space to be able to lead in that sense, lead them out of their own way, lead them. But that's what they're hiring people for.
Yeah, we're professionals, 100%. Yeah,
especially in a DIY world, right? So everybody complains about this in almost any industry. Oh, well, everybody's doing it themselves, or they're doing this, or they're doing that. I'm sure in your industry too. They're like, I'll rent a truck, right? So you have to. If we're not leaders, you're giving them one more reason to not need your services.
Yeah.
Period.
100%.
So, yeah. So I'm so excited to have you here. So yeah, did you know how much of a hot mess I was way back when at Keller Williams?
At Keller Williams? No, I did not. We've talked on the phone about some of your.
But that's 30 years ago. But still, the impact of what I did to myself in my 20s.
I was definitely walking in like a hot mess. I'll tell you that much. I'm like. Our first interaction with me asking you if me not having a license will affect my ability to do real estate in so many.
A driver's license, right? A driver's license.
You were looked at me like, oh, kid, You got a lot going on, don't you?
And then I was like, well, first tell me why you don't have a driver's license.
Yeah, I think I had to break out the list of reasons at the time. But yeah, that was our first interaction. No, one of our first interactions. But you were really, you were awesome back then. You're awesome now, and you made it easy. I felt kind of at home, from the very
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that was 15 years ago. Keller Williams.
Wow.
Interesting. Time flies.
Very interesting. So tell us, Joe, like, typically this is more of like training than podcast style, but I wasn't going to say no when you wanted to talk about this topic because it's been awesome to watch. But it's not the success. So I have a podcast called Soulful Prosperity, and you really embody what I call soulful prosperity because you are having fun. I mean, you make videos about moving guys in their underwear. I mean, come on, this is fun. You're having fun. And what's the point, right? This is why I talk about the people pleasing and all these different things, these patterns, unearthing them is so that we can get back to the joy, get back to having fun. What is the point if you're not? And you embody that. So tell us the journey. Yeah.
Well, first, I'd like to say I don't know that the person in his underwear is always having the most fun. I think we some of us that are there get a kick out of it. So it's just a matter of, but it's different. It's not as monotonous, if that's the right word. Yeah, it's not as monotonous. I mean, it's a different thing for us to be doing other than moving and dealing with the different aspects of running a business. You get to dive into that world, and that is fun. So, but maybe not the guy in his underwear at that particular moment. Anyway, what was the question you had said? You want me to
just dive into your journey? Tell us. I think it's really important for people, whether they're budding entrepreneurs or they have a job now and wish they can start a business or have a business and they're struggling, and to hear the journey.
Yeah, well, it started as a young kid and it ended with a pacifier on my desk. I'll get across all the other. I'll get No, I think I had. I don't know how far back you want me to go, but I feel like I'm speaking at a meeting here. But no problem. So as a young child, I think I just grew up pretty dysfunctional, like everyone else had issues. My parents the best they could. They were amazing. But every family has problems, and who knows how those problems affect you or don't affect you. I don't think I never really held on to anything growing up as a reason why things turned out the way they did. I'm sure there was some effect, positive and negative. But I had an interesting childhood growing up. Nothing. So I've heard worse. I've heard a lot worse.
Yeah.
But again, I believe that they did the best they could with the tools they had at the time, and they were amazing for the love that they gave me. But they had a very tumultuous, toxic relationship for them, very much so. If you ever seen Goodfellas,
yeah,
like the Jewish wife and like Ray Liotta, like Italian going nuts.
Yeah.
That was like really very much the dynamic in my household growing up. So. But my father was amazing, and my mother was sweet too. So they had it. Anyways, so I do remember growing up and feeling like I was different in the sense that I felt like a lot of people picked on me. Looking back, I remember I got a call from like sleepaway camp where my parents said he told my parents if like he gets into another argument he can't stay here anymore, and I was like convinced they were out for me. I was like, how. Like it wasn't me. And then looking back, I'm like, maybe there was some element of me in there, that I really wasn't able to diagnose at the time. And I felt different. I felt like I had to prove myself, or, that's just a small example. But I know that growing up, I tried to fit in with certain groups of people that I wanted to be. I felt like they were the cooler group, or they were I wanted to get along with them. And that was not the right choices that I was making, I don't think, as a child. And long story short, I dropped out of high school, and I did really well at school. I was in ROTC and all these like Montessori classes. And by 11th grade, I dropped out and I was hanging with the wrong group of people. And maybe wrong group. I don't know. I had some good friends then too, but I did make some really bad choices then. And at a young age, I was working. My mother had told me, if you're not gonna go to school, you're gonna work and get out of the house, or you can get out of the house. And I never mind working. I always kind of like to work, even at a very young age. And I got a full-time job selling cars at 17 years old. Well, full-time job before that, working at a bait and switch Nationwide Computers and Electronics. It was a bait and switch store that had a business now. It was one hell of an education for somebody who went to college, and I did like the time that I was there. I wasn't proud of the stuff that they were doing looking back, but it was definitely an experience, and I don't mind that I had it.
Right.
Guys were pretty interesting. Anyways, and I started selling cars at 18 years old, and I working full time. I was in a 3-piece suit from the time I was 17, 18 years old till about 25, every day. Suit. Just like they wanted me to dress when I first walked into Keller Williams, but I was done with this. I was done with at that point.
Jamal wanted everybody dressed.
Jamal's amazing with that. He's calmed down a lot. Jamal was always awesome with me. It was Lewis was his name. Maybe Lewis.
Oh yeah.
He was elbowing Jamal, like, look what he's wearing. Look, I'm right in front of me. Look what he's wearing. Go look at it.
Very old school, Lewis. Very old school.
Yeah, but he's a beast.
But wait, I want to stop for 1 second because you talked about the bait and switch, and I just want to say I'm working on a NLP master's certificate, which is neuro linguistic programming, which is a lot of what bait and switch companies use, and it's like I'm not advocating that whatsoever. I hope I'm not getting too much feedback here.
I don't hear anything.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
But the level of intelligence that kind of sales takes, if only they put that energy into good, right? Because it really is a super high level intelligence, strategy, all the things you need to succeed, but to evil. And that shit just doesn't work anymore.
It depends on how you look at it, because some people that think in the car business it's wrong, right? Like car salespeople they're out to get you and da da da. And I remember like my old manager saying to me, like, you realize that if you like your ability to provide and make money depends on how much money you make, but on the other end, the person sitting across from you would happy with you making $1 and sell and take the car from you. And if you made $1, that would be your problem. So it depends on how you look at it. I do think that being totally transparent has changed my life, and being as transparent as possible. Okay, let me be. No one's perfect, especially me.
Right.
But being transparent, making that the baseline for what I try to do and everything in my life has changed things tremendously. And but what I learned from there was it is a very high level of thinking, right? When someone comes in, the idea behind it was before Google, interestingly enough, we're that old. And people would come in trying to buy they would advertise a Sony camera for way below anywhere anyone else sold it. People would line up down the block. There'd be a line down the block to get this. It was in the paper. They would advertise. They would open the door and people would rush in, and your job was to convince them that Hitachi was a better camera and a little bit more. And there was it was very high level thinking and strategy and working with other people at the front door to stop them before they left if they were going to leave.
Yes.
So,
oh my God.
Speaking a different language, they were teaching us, they'd call it hacking. It was like a mix of like Arabic and I want to say maybe Arabic, something else. I don't know. But we were like at times speaking a different language to communicate. And it wasn't specifically Arabic because there was such a mix of people that it was just a combination of words. Anyways, but looking at it like I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it, and I did learn a lot of stuff. I'm not gonna lie. It's certainly one hell of an education. Not the way to run a successful business. Obviously, they closed. They had 3 or 4 stores. They did great for a little bit, and then they closed on their own. Not that they were shut down by the government. Anyways, so
it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. It's survival mode. Being in hustle mode is the same as survival mode. Like, it's not sustainable. There's no real joy in that. There's dopamine, right? Like, yeah, we did it, but it's not sustainable.
100%. It's like selling drugs.
Yes.
It really is. It's quick money. It doesn't. So don't try it.
Don't. But you're always gonna be looking over your shoulder.
Don't try it, folks. So
all right.
Yeah. But at 18 years old, 17 years old, I also started using pretty hard drugs. At a very, very young age. We were drinking, but more so, I was drinking a lot and drinking like fish, but not every single day. Using really hard drugs, but not every single day. And they say that the disease of addiction is progressive, obviously fatal. And I did not know what progression looked like, or even what the word progression when it was related to drug addiction really meant. I did not know what an obsession to use drugs was, or an allergy to drugs or alcohol or anything like that. It was only later in life. But over the years, I had been arrested many times and had many difficult challenges in relationship that I had, and setbacks, but I always continued working full time and working 5-6 days a week, and I did really well. I was a top producer in the car business, and for at my age, and I did really well, and at 24 years old, I bought my first house, and I started my business at that age too, and I got my license around then because we met shortly after.
Yep.
And and things were going great until they weren't. I had more troubles, more arrests. And by the time I was 30 years old, I felt like I was on top of the world. I had a business with 2 locations, employees, and all of a sudden my father got liver cancer, and that was really a blow to me, to the family, to him, to my mom, but it was really something I had not expected. Like, looking back, my father had smoked when I was younger, and he was heavy as well. And I always kind of thought, like, if I'm going to lose him, it's going to be a heart attack, and this idea of watching someone that you love so much, which I'm sure a lot of us have done or have seen other people experience. But watching someone you love, get wither away and like suffer like that, it's sort of like watching your best friend get hit with these baseball bat. There's nothing you can really do about it, and it was really difficult.
I just want to add here, because I got, like, one of the things that I instantly loved about you, Joe, is how much you loved your parents.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in very, very intense, very deep, before any ailments or anything like that. It was just always so obvious your devotion to your parents. It was beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. They were
welcome.
They were amazing. They were great. Like I said, I laugh and I look back and I'm like, when I was 30 years old, if I had a child, how would I be acting? And I'm like, oh, it puts into perspective how great they were, because they did the best. I've heard people say this, and I can't. They did the best with the tools they had. They were both. They were both great, and they showered me with a lot of love, for sure.
They sure did. Yeah.
So watching that was really hard, but I kind of felt like I jumped into showing up mode, in a sense that, like, I was like, not, just gonna push harder at life and put harder at, spending time with my mother and at business, and took care of the whole thing as far as burying my father and taking care of him while he was on like his hospice thing, and because it was really hard for my mother, and so he lived in the house with me, and it was really difficult to watch, but I don't know, drugs and alcohol kind of got put to the side. But they were still there. It just wasn't really like a 2-3 day a week thing. It was more like a once every couple weeks thing at that point, maybe. And I somehow over the next couple of years, I had once my father passed away, it got 10 times worse, and it got to a point where I was using drugs and alcohol 24/7. There's nights I was not sleeping, and it was really a 24/7, and the only time that it wasn't 24/7 if there was a couple hours in between that I didn't sleep. And obviously I lost the business at that point. Over the years, my father got sick, it started to deteriorate. Obviously drugs being the primary issue, but a lot of other underlying issues that I did not realize, that lead to drug use and abuse of
Yes.
alcohol and stuff like that. The real main issues that lead to that, right?
Yep.
So once, and then my mother started getting really sick, and then she suffered for 2 or 3 years, and I was taken to the hospital and trying to do as much as I could, but I was a mess. In truth, I look back and those are, everybody has regrets, and I choose not to live in the past, as much as possible, but especially with this, because this was really almost took me out. But I had a lot of guilt, shame, and remorse for not being able to be as well as I could have. So she passed, and I was ready to check out. The business was on like hanging by a string, and and I had neither one of them, and I think I felt like I had nothing. I was anchored to nothing. No brothers, no sisters, family, but amazing. They're great people, but I was never super connected. I was never connected with them like at the time. More so, it's grown.
Yeah.
At the time, like you are with your siblings, or it's family. But it was, the closest family I had was my mom's side was living up by Lake George, and my father's side of the family. There's a couple cousins that I really love, but wasn't what I think I wanted or needed at the time. I don't know. Anyways, so I felt pretty much alone. Whether I was or wasn't, that's a whole nother story. But at the time, I pretty much felt alone, and I was ready to, I was ready to hang it all up. Like I just was. And luckily, I saw this podcast the other day, and this guy really hit it on the, hit the nail on the head. And he said that he looked in the mirror and he was just like disgusted by what he saw. And I don't think I had this look in the mirror experience, but I had this one more time getting high and being spoken to like I was less than. And it was the first time I realized that the way I was behaving, right, warranted that. And I was like, how did you get like this? Like you're not like, this was not the way you were raised. And like, is this going to be the story that you leave behind for your parents? Like that just typical quintessential, someone loses family and falls off the deep end and offs himself kind of thing. And I started this journey of trying to get some help, and I went away to an inpatient. I checked myself out. I went back, and I met some amazing people in a 12-step program, and they saved my life. That's the, without dragging that out too long, but that's really, they saved my life. Luckily, I walked in willing to do what anybody told me to do. You tend to have better results when you're desperate,
Mm-hmm.
and the result was I was willing to do whatever they told me to do, and my life changed, completely turned around from even better than before, better than before. Especially the way I react to things, and an appreciation for life that I don't think I ever had. So
that's amazing.
And then the best part, I have a beautiful fiance. I have a gorgeous daughter, and that all happened later in life. I'm 41 years old, but God works on God's time. So
yeah. So one thing I'll say that I've learned is regret. If you can use regret to give you clarity on exactly what you don't want and do want, and motivation, then it's not a bad thing. But yeah, ruminating with shame and remorse and all that, it'll just kill you. So
there's a certain amount of some people might not like this, but and please, it's just my opinion, but there is a certain amount of like pity party, You know,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
that
Yeah.
like, yes, can we be disappointed in the decisions that we made in the past? Absolutely. Holding on to them and letting them affect how we act,
Hmm.
how we interact with other people today is a choice.
Yeah.
That's a choice. I can either not hold on to it or I can hold on to it. But that is absolutely a choice. Can I change the past? No, I'm stuck with that. But how I let it affect my life today and the decisions that I make today is a choice. It's a hard choice, especially when you're stuck in the middle of it. It's very hard. It seems impossible to get out.
Hmm.
But ultimately it is a choice. And just like choosing to be happy, those are choices. Um, of course, then you have chemical imbalance and stuff like that. It's a whole different story. But I don't think that was much of really what applied here. Although I am probably kind of crazy, but I don't think that was a.
Me
I don't.
too.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
only like crazy people. I don't want any normal people around me. I want the crazies.
The only
All
normal
right,
ones
so
we don't know really well.
yeah. So failed business, right? Hot mess. Picked yourself up. How did you turn your business around?
Oh, I started a new one. I don't think
Okay.
there was any turning that business around because there was a lot of harm that I had caused when I was running that business with vendors, with past employees, um,
Mm-hmm.
just hurtful things or making bad decisions. I want to say harm is even like I have a body buried behind the back of the warehouse up in Habit. That's just not true. That's just not true. But just mistakes that were made, and I felt like I needed something new and to do things completely different. And at the time, I wasn't convinced that I wanted to get back into the moving industry. I thought the real estate agents were the problem. I thought that the
You're
customers,
always the problem.
the customers were the problem. I was like, I used to, I had an answer for everything, and I just said I don't know what I want to do. I think I was working for doing security for a friend's security company, and all I had to do was sit in my truck and do whatever. I was going to school. He was literally like, sit in your truck. I'm going to pay you $25 an hour and you don't have to do anything. I said, okay, sounds like a good idea to me. And I would literally sit in my truck for 8 hours a day, sometimes 12 and get overtime and do nothing but go to school, be on Instagram, whatever, nothing. And clock in and clock out. That was it. So I was just getting paid to hang out. And I was like, all right, well, while I'll do this, maybe I'll go to school. I'm like, like the idea of watching nurses with my parents was interesting and maybe helping people that are sick. I feel like I could use some of my smarts for that, because that would be good. And then I remember it was pre-COVID. It was still very busy in the moving industry, and I was getting calls because once I jumped into saving my life mode and going, 12-step program, and I turned off my business line. I was like, I can't do it anymore. I tried, and if I do that, I'm not gonna be able to focus on recovery, and I'm gonna lose it all. But then when I turned the phone back on, the phone was still ringing because we'd done like 8 or 10 years of business, and people were calling,
Mhm.
and I was like, you know what, I'll do these jobs, but I'm going to change everything all the things I was afraid of doing. We talked about people pleasing, all the things that I was afraid of doing because I thought I was going to lose my business, but it was what I thought sounded right. I'm going to apply, and all the things that I learned that didn't work, I'm going to just discard them. No matter if it's the standard and the norm in the moving industry, I'm going to discard them. I don't care how norm it is. And I applied these changes to this business that I always wanted to change, but I was afraid of. And I was charging a premium for the service we were providing because I was providing a premium service. And I had brought on some movers that I had known from before. I paid them very well to hop on board, and the result was people were very, very happy, and there was no complaining. And like it was a lot more stress free. Um, and I was like, wow, this is interesting. We were making a lot of money and we were doing a great job, and everybody was happy. And then, and I started working on a social media account and creating a logo and all this other stuff. And fast forward, COVID hit and moving went nuts. The moving industry was the busiest it had ever been, and that I can remember around COVID. And we took off, hit the ground running. And I'm looking for a Tums. Sorry, excuse me. And yeah, oh, here it is. And hit the ground running, and these policies that we implemented are the best decision that I had ever made when it comes to running a business. And fast forward now, we have 11 or 12,000 people that follow us on Instagram alone, or maybe over 12,000, excuse me. And of that, over 3,000 of them are in the real estate industry between New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Florida. The real estate agents, the real estate industry has been amazing, to us, and a lot of agents who I never knew, somehow I formed these relationships with, and they trusted us, and and I hope that we never let them down. So far, we haven't, and built these amazing relationships and amazing friendships. Some of my, which I never thought. And the way with the last business, like you, Jamal, I was cool with, but like I never had these relationships with people that I really could say I loved, or that I just had these deep, meaningful conversations with, and it has evolved to that. So I've made some really amazing friends, and I would like to say that in the real estate industry, we're the number one recommended mover in this area, and I think it's a true statement. Are we number one recommended mover on the East Coast or in the tri-state area? I don't know. Maybe there are people recommending more movers, but from the real estate industry in New York, Jersey, Connecticut, I think we've so fortunate to be the number one recommended mover in that area, in these areas, and then the result is we don't advertise. No advertising, zero.
All through social media.
All through social media and the relationships we built on social media, and real estate industry. It happened through social media, but I tapped into the real estate market through social media. And the leveraging social media helped me to tap into that market, and the market being this industry being great, took from there. Social media continues to open up new doors and new opportunities. Yeah, that's it.
But you also, it wasn't just, through social media. You also showed up, were educating and realtors on how to get themselves out there on social media. You were showing up to people's offices, help creating content, teaching them to have a little bit of fun with it. It's funny because
you watched the journey.
Yeah. You came to my office. I don't know if you remember. We had fun.
Yeah. I remember we had a good time with that. The video with the bells and
I've watched you do it with like tons of people, do all these fun, different videos before TikTok even really blew up to the way that it is now. You were ahead of the curve there and teaching, and you were providing value and building relationships. We have a mutual friend who did an amazing job with that, except he was more like buying drinks. Mark Akhtar. I mean, I've been in the business 29 years, and I've only really seen Mark first and then you. But Mark
did
just
a phenomenal job.
Holy crap.
Pre Instagram at all.
Yeah.
Like,
he just networked,
and he didn't use Facebook. It was just literally stopping the ground, boots on the ground type of relationship building.
Yeah.
He was he was a force to be reckoned with back then, for sure.
Yeah.
Proven to be held him strong to this day,
Absolutely. I mean, and then I laugh because Trudy Iglesias, one of my best friends, and she's mentioning you, and Amanda Rasak is my sister, and she's mentioning you. I'm like, that's my Joe. What are you talking about? How do you guys know him?
Two really awesome women. I would, and I know that there's people on the line, and if it ever happens, it happens. I'm outing myself and saying it. I would run over someone with a car for Trudy if she asked, and back over if she asks me to.
I just want you to know that if you hang out with her, eventually you will have to run over someone in a car for Trudy.
She's as wild as they come, but she's amazing. Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah, we've spent some time together. She's hung out with the baby a bunch of times. We went to New York City to
Yeah.
she really loves like dancing. I mean, this is one of your close friends.
Yeah. My people.
Yeah.
My people. Very successful, both her and her husband. Really smart people, but that living a good life. The life that they want to live, and that's what it's all about.
Joe's my boy.
Yeah, really smart. And that's what it boils down to. And now you've got, how old is your daughter?
Months old. 11. She'll be. Oh, is my phone dead? She'll be 11 months old in 5 days.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And how's business?
It's good. It's amazing. I mean, as I was saying before, it's a good place to be in when you don't pay for advertising. Not $1. I mean, if you talk about time being payment, I guess we're spending time on creating videos on Instagram from time to time, which I have done quite often. We're recycling a lot of our older videos. But I won't spend $1 on advertising, and we're booked till mid-August right now. I don't have any crews available till mid-August, and I'm okay with that. I don't want to. We've been growing exponentially, if that's the right word. We've been growing a lot. But at a certain point, you also don't want to lose having the systems in place. So we're growing, and we're doing a lot of business, and there's the opportunity to do even more. And I'm holding on to the reins just a little bit, because I want to grow at the pace that we're supposed to grow, And
and you got a baby.
Yeah, and you don't want to jeopardize something that's something that's working so well. So it's really we're continuing to buy more equipment, we're continuing to train more guys, but especially in the summertime, there's never enough. I mean, we were turning down business left and right, in July, in June and July, because that's the busiest time of the year, and you can only train people so quickly and get them to the it's really difficult to you can put 5 carpenters to move a 26-foot truck from here to Jersey and everything will get destroyed, and these are guys that work with wood all day long. It's really or a majority of it will be destroyed. So there's an art to it, and there are certain techniques and policies and procedures that need to be done to make sure it's done correctly, and it takes time to train people to do that.
So let me ask this: how's workforce? Are you having workforce issues? Are you able to find and hire people?
It's just interesting you say that. In the movie industry, the biggest struggle is always helpers and drivers. Salespeople, no. They have operations people, no. Marketing, customer service, that kind of stuff, no. But drivers and helpers are always the most difficult to find. We pay our drivers and our movers quite well. So if you have and I'm not mentioning any names, but there's a pretty decent sized company that's not too far from us. They do 120, 150 jobs a day in the summertime.
Holy crap.
A lot of work, yeah. And their helpers, I think they're paid $18 an hour, $17 an hour. So it's not hard. One way to attract employees in a business that's harder to attract, in an area that's harder to attract, is to pay them more. We pay them more, but we expect more. But that is the hardest. Because I don't know. I mean, not saying anything about the caliber of people, because there's some amazing drivers and some amazing helpers, but a lot of the people that choose that profession are rough around the edges, in the sense
not mainstream.
Right. They'll be more likely to they're just less diplomatic in the sense of like what business you would need to. I don't know. In sales, I would eat shit from my, sometimes. And I don't expect any, I'm not saying we don't expect anyone to eat shit, but, if I was told to do something, whether I agreed with it or not, I'd do it. right?
Right.
As long as I wasn't causing me harm or it wasn't illegal,
Right.
my boss. And I think that, being a little rougher around the edges, certain people in that field are less likely to be willing to just roll with the punches and more combative in that regard. And then because of that, you have more turnover.
Yeah, it's kind of a transient, right? Like it's kind of attracts people who know they can just go find another moving job or, different things because it's always in need.
Unless you pay them more,
Right.
and they can't
Right.
go
So
for
smart.
it.
I have a friend who owns a restaurant who did the same thing. I think she's paying her people about $25 an hour. And
Just for
it's been this
just for helpers and some more. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have some really incredible helpers that just don't have a license, and they could do everything from start to finish, but drive the truck. You have some really incredible, movers that So if you pay them like your friend, if you pay them well, you can retain them and you can attract them. But
and treat them well, and I'm sure you do because you're just a kind, gentle person. We have a couple questions. You good for a couple questions? This is a good one. You ready?
Sure.
Did you damage your reputation and have to salvage it? And how did you overcome that?
I think I did hurt my reputation. We went from like starting as a 5-star mover with the old company down to like a 2 or 3-star mover. And I worked really hard to build it back up to like a 4-star mover, and then it came crashing down again. And I'm sure there were people that were not happy with the service that we provided, and probably rightfully so. I think it just goes back to that like living and regret thing. If I live in this for a while, I was like, I don't know, I'm going to overcome this. I think to answer the question of how I overcame that, I focused on what the task at hand for me was, which was to not live in the past and to do the best that I can today and continue to show up. And I think that if the time comes that I come across someone who will call me out on it, and say, hey, 12 years ago, I hated you because of X, Y, Z. I hope that the incredible work that we've done, with the New York Mover will certainly outshine that. I love that. I believe it has. I worked with some agents many years ago that had referred us business that stopped referring us business because they were getting a complaint.
Right.
And they've seen and I think watched sort of like you have over the years with the New York Mover and been like, wow, these guys have really stepped it up and do an amazing job, and now send us a ton of business. So,
I'm a big believer at any decision where you decide to be different, better, whatever, you are. Right. And I think people appreciate that. I think everybody's gone through something in their life that they're not proud of, made decisions that they're not proud of. And maybe not everybody was as public as you, but I think people can relate to that. And a good comeback story, everybody loves a good comeback story. So, and I think also your heart, people know your heart. Let's see. When did you know you wanted to be a business owner?
I think that from a very young age, I always had this streak in me, like that. My father used to sell flowers for Easter and Mother's Day. It was like a thing that he had done for many years in Bronx, where he would buy the wholesale and pop up with a really big corner and rent out the corner. And I was like out there hustling at like 8 or 9 years old, like making change for people and selling the flowers and bringing them to their cars. So I always had this sort of like interesting streak that I don't think I knew of. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but in the car business, I did not know that I was going to be in this entrepreneurial world. I was in the car business, and a friend of mine, his older brother who had started in the movie industry, came and approached me, and he was like, hey, I have a moving company and you're really good at sales. I want you to come on over with us. And my good friend, who's his younger brother, told me not to trust him. He was like, do not trust my brother. Don't do it. Of course, like like anyone else, you tell me not to do something, I'm going to do it. So I listened to him, and I was like, we had arranged some arrangement for me to buy in, and I said I want to work in the company first before here's a truck, right? Or here's some cash. I'll give 2 trucks to the company. I'll buy them, and I'll turn over the title to the company. But I want to work in the company a little bit, and I did. And he had all these lawsuits and Better Business Bureau issues, and they were really running it like a shit show over there. Like that was crazy. And I was like, hey, this is not what we agreed upon. And he's like, well, then don't buy in. And I had these trucks already. And I'm like, what am I going to do with these trucks that I bought? And at the time, I was just like, I think at the time, I was like, all right, I'm going to start this moving business that I had never lifted a box a day before in my life. And I did. And we did really well launching it off the ground for someone who'd never done moving. I hired some people that did moving and picked their brain. And but that's how I got into the moving business. Or that's how I knew I was going to. That's the only time I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. I started then, and I still doubted myself. Sometimes do, not very often, doubt myself that I have what it takes. More
Yeah.
so I've gotten over that insecurity. Imposter syndrome. I think we all had imposter syndrome up until 3-4 years ago. I was like absolutely convinced, like, all right, you have something there that you should not, ever let go of. But even with the first moving company, I was still like a serious imposter syndrome.
Yeah. That's So, and the best way, and I'm sure you'll agree, that overcome imposter syndrome is just keep moving forward, right? As long as you have the right intent to help people and you have the resources to figure out what you need to figure out as you go, you're doing just as good as anybody else.
Yeah, it depends. If you're a person, I was for a while a person that would needed to put the bat down and stop beating myself up,
Yeah.
So I think that everyone has this level of feeling like their success is on accident or they're just getting lucky or stuff like that. And I think there's a deeper rooted issue there for me, is like not feeling good enough, like I'd let me to feel that way, instead of being able to be proud of myself in that regard. And luckily now I am, but there's still these old things can come back from time to time. But I think being proud of yourself and acknowledging that there was work that was put in to get you where you are, and being joyous in the celebrating the victories,
Yes,
giving yourself the freedom to celebrate the victories, and know that it's not know that you're not bragging, and if you have people around you that tell you you're bragging, those are maybe not your people.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, by celebrating, we're giving other people permission to celebrate. I mean, look, we're here to be happy. We're here to enjoy life. We're here to feel good. And why would we not be celebrating our victories? I mean, it's super important. And I think that you're bragging. My kids have been telling me I'm conceited since they were little. You're so conceited, Mom. I'm like, well, who the hell else is going to tell me I'm beautiful? Right? You gotta love yourself. Oh, thank you, Joe. Well, this is awesome. I'm so grateful you were here and we got to hear your story. I know you definitely helped a lot of people today. This is Joe's contact information. This is all right?
Yep.
Definitely follow him on Instagram. It is entertaining and fun, and you will learn a lot. Because Joe, I mean, what kind of budget did you start out with when you started doing your going crazy on Instagram?
None. I don't think it requires much. An iPhone would do wonders. There are people who do super well with just an iPhone, and nothing more. Some that do way better than others.
Janya's on here.
Jen, I love you. I do have to hop off. I don't want to be rude.
Yep. Go. Love you. Thank you so much. If you guys need to get in touch with Joe, here's his contact information. And if you just happened upon this on social media, Joe, you can just go. Don't even worry. If you just happened upon this on social media, you can scan this and you will get access to all the past Empower Hours and also my Soulful Prosperity Toolkit, all kinds of great stuff. And if you are ready to regain your time and profit, I encourage you to take my time efficiency breakthrough audit, scan it here. And I'm going to go probably back to sleep and enjoy this beautiful view that I have. Love you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you soon.